You're listening to Kate Palmer from SparkleTart.com. Today I'm going to show you how I coloured my Macintosh keyboard using Copic markers. If you'd like to do this for yourself, you'll need a keyboard with white keys, clear spray varnish, some of the Copic colourless blending solution in the refill and the pen, Copic markers, and lastly, Ranger Mini Mister. I found this nifty little picture of my Apple keyboard online and I printed it at the exact same size as my keyboard. Then I went through with my Copic markers and I did some colour testing. Now I understand that this is paper and my keyboard is plastic, or metal and plastic, so the colours are not going to turn out exactly the same. But this at least gave me an idea of how dark the colours were. For example, down here, R89, I knew this was going to be dark, but I also knew I was putting it on the control key and I knew exactly where that one was. There were a few things that I decided not to use because the colour just didn't work out very well. So down here was an RV, it just didn't quite match. So what I did is I tested the little colour and I wrote the colour label down next to it. Yes, I will put on my blog basically a map of the colours that I have used. So if you'd like to complete this for yourself and you like the way mine turned out, it will let you know what colours I've used on this. Now the Copics are alcohol inks, so they do dry on non-porous surfaces, and that's why I could do this. So I've got a pale row of colours along the top here so that you can actually see the function keys, and it gets gradually darker down towards the bottom. Alright, so you know I've done my colour chart. Once I did the colour chart, I just got my Copic markers and I coloured in each key. I coloured as neatly and carefully as I could so that I wouldn't have a lot of cleanup later. I coloured each of the edges and then filled in the middle. Now, because I'd been using this keyboard for a while, quite a while, some of the keys had little bits of wear on them, so some of the pattern wasn't quite as smooth as a brand new keyboard would turn out to be. You also end up with lines. Don't worry about those. You can't do anything about them. That's just how the Copic alcohol ink takes on the keys. You will fix that. You can see how careful I've been while colouring the keys. I've got very little excess ink on the keys or on the keyboard surrounds, and this makes cleanup much easier afterwards. This is what the keyboard looks like after applying the Copic marker. You can see it's a little bit streaky, and so far it doesn't look super awesome, but believe me, we'll fix this and it's going to look great. Now once that was done, I had some of the Copic Colours blender and I put this into a mini misting bottle. Now it will need to be the Mini Mister from Ranger because this has a fabulously fine spray and you only need to put a little tiny bit in the bottle. Now the next thing to do is you need to spray from quite a distance. You'll need to spray from the length of the keyboard at least away. If you spray any closer, what happens is you get an even coating of liquid across the entire key and you don't get that speckling that I really like. The further away you spray, and just spray a little bit at a time, I mean I'm really talking a little tiny bit of spray here, wherever the spray hits the colour, that's where you get those little dots. So each of these little spots is an individual bit of spray. The more liquid you spray on at once, the more it will just run across the keys like a wash. Once you've gone and sprayed all of the keys, wait at least 10 minutes to see how all of this is going to look. There may be some keys that need a little bit more spray, like some of the darker colours, than the others. All I did was put pieces of paper there to protect it. So, and then you just spray the ones down here. And that allowed me to add more spray to the darker colours while still protecting the lighter ones. Just keep spraying until it looks the way you want it to look. Now, the modelling effect that you will achieve from spraying that blending solution on is what makes the lines disappear. Because you're breaking up those lines with all of these little bits of mottled kind of colour, you don't see them. That's why I say don't worry about those. Some of my favourite keys are these sort of pale mottly ones up here. They're just yum. I've actually drawn in white paint pen
an extra fine Sharpie to be exact, I've drawn the little arrows back on, and then in black Copic multiliner, because of course that's an alcohol ink as well, I've redrawn the arrows on, just so they're a little bit easier to see, and the same with this one here. Now, you don't have to do that, it just made it a bit easier for me, that was all. And so when you look up close, you can see that I've got this amazing effect going on in all of the keys. I had my husband hanging over my shoulder while I was doing this, sort of going, Once I put this on, even he liked it. And it just helps sort of meld those colours really well. Now, there are just a couple more steps until this is finished. Number one is cleaning up. Now, because you've used your Copic markers, you'll need to be cleaning up with your Copic blender. So I've just got a ratty old Chow blender that I use for things that aren't necessarily what you should be doing with your blender pen. This would be one of them. And what I'm going to do is just look for any keys that have a little blip of colour where it shouldn't be. And all you need to do is run the blender pen along the edge of the key, and it just cleans the Copic pen right off.
So tilt the keyboard so you can easily see the edge of each key and just remove any excess colour.
It's surprisingly simple, and it's quite quick, and it's pretty easy to do. You won't ruin the top of your keys doing this. Now, once the blender pen gets a little bit dirty, just get a little bit of scrap paper and take any of the colour off the tip of the blender before you keep going. You don't want to transfer it from one key to another. Okay, now the last step, and probably the most important, is this is a keyboard. You'll be touching it constantly. There is a chance that if you do not seal this, that Copic colour would come off on your fingers. Now, I actually used it for a couple of days before I sealed it, just to make sure. And whilst I didn't have any colour come off on mine, I liked it that much I wanted to protect it. So, I printed my Copic keyboard out exactly to size. And then with a craft knife, just move the keyboard so you can see this, I just cut out the keys. So I made myself a little template of my keyboard. Now, it didn't actually take as long as you might think. I used a ruler and just put a ruler down here. And this is basically just to protect the aluminium for what I was going to do next. You can see it just sort of fits over the top there. So the little keys are left poking out and the aluminium is protected underneath. And I took it outside and I sprayed it with some clear gloss varnish. Now this is permanent. It is made for spraying onto craftwork and photographs and ceramics and all sorts of things. This one is called Crystal Clear and it's from Micador, and it's an Australian brand. You will have versions of these available overseas. I sprayed one coat from a distance. The closer you spray, the wetter the object will become. You don't want to wet your keyboard in case it gets into the circuitry. So I did 3 coats over about the course of 15 minutes. I sprayed it, I let it dry. I sprayed it in the opposite direction. I let it dry, and then I sprayed it diagonally and let it dry. And that's all while my template was over the top, protecting the aluminium underneath. You do not want to get water or liquid product in underneath your keys. That can ruin your keyboard. So just go slowly, go carefully.
Let the varnish dry for about 30 minutes before using your keyboard. I've been using my finished keyboard for about a month now, and I'm happy to report it looks exactly like it did when I first created this. I do a lot of mixed media artwork, so this poor little keyboard has been covered in paint. It's also been sprayed with dye inks, and all I've needed to do to keep it looking clean is wipe it with a baby wipe every now and then. And I haven't had any colour transfer or any colour coming off. So from my perspective, this little experiment's been a success.
So for those people wanting to know how I did my Copic keyboard, that was it. And I hope you've enjoyed it. And maybe you'll be brave and try your own version of this gorgeous Copic coloured keyboard. Have fun, guys, and may your day sparkle. Bye.
Thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye.